Welcome to another Switchcraft review. I'm Bill, and I'm going to be reviewing Cat Quest by Gentle Bros. Just to be transparent, I did receive this game as a review copy, so I didn't pay for it. It's not an ad, but I just wanted to be transparent. Let's start with a general overview of the game. In the game, you play a cat known as a Dragonblood. Dragonbloods are cats who can slay dragons. There's an evil mage who has summoned dragons and kidnapped your sister. And the writing of the game is filled with cat puns and even some clever pop culture references. Overall, I think that it's a very funny premise, and the writing plays to the premise really well. The game actually started out as a dancing game featuring a three-dimensional cat, but they went through a whole lot of different stuff and arrived with, instead of that, an ARPG featuring a two-dimensional cat as the protagonist. And overall, the game's really fun. Let's talk about gameplay. The enemies will put and you'll fight different kinds of monsters, including dragons, other cats sometimes, some wizards and things like that. And as you're fighting them, they have a couple different abilities that they'll do. All of their abilities will have telegraphs. So they'll have a physical attack, which will have a smaller radius, and then they'll have magical attacks, which will have larger radiuses, or they'll go like horizontally or vertically or out in four different directions, stuff like that. The telegraphs are put on the ground in semi-transparent color, and then they slowly fill up as the spell or the attack is about to hit. And you, the character, you have the ability to dodge roll out of that telegraph. So the real crux of the game comes with you getting in close to do your damage and then dodge rolling out before you take damage. The only way to heal is either through magic spell that you learn throughout the game, or by going to a like an inn and having a cat nap. All of the spells that you see in the game you also have access to. So they've got a whole bunch of different ones, like there's a fire one and a lightning one, and as I already said before, a healing one, and there's other ones that you also get access to throughout the game. You get to bind these abilities to the 4 shoulder buttons on your Switch controller. Overall, I feel like it's really good. I like that they have, I think, 6 total. If I'm remembering correctly, there's 6 total spells, and at any time you can have up to 4 of them. So, you know, different people get to play the game different way. The magic spells have different attack directions. So the fire attack is a big circle attack, whereas the lightning attack is a horizontal attack and the ice attack is a vertical attack. And there's both a vertical progression where you go through and you get, we'll say, more powerful things by spending gold and upgrading your spells, or by getting a new piece of gear that makes your attacks more powerful. So there's that kind of progression, but it also has a horizontal progression where it's less about power and more about convenience. For instance, early on in the game, I was a little irritated with how much traveling I had to do. But later on in the game, I got a new way to travel, and it made things much quicker, and it made the world seem a little less daunting, because it is a large world that you're playing through, and that horizontal progression helps with that. You can also upgrade, like I said before, with the vertical progression, you can upgrade your stats through gear. And I do like this. It actually does change what your character looks like. So if you're wearing a wizard hat, your character wears a wizard hat. So a lot of games will kind of phone that in, where they'll just have one model for the character and they won't change it based on what the character is wearing. So I like that Cat Quest did that. You have a couple different stats. Your armor is the one that I want to focus on. It acts as a bonus health bar that regenerates, so you can play the game without having any armor at all, and so you won't have that little cushion. But because your health doesn't regenerate, armor seems pretty important to have, because it will, you take some damage and the damage happens to your armor bar instead of your hit point bar, and that comes back if you don't take damage for a certain amount of time. In order to regen, if you don't, if like your health is low, you have to find a place to catnap, or you have to go attack enemies in order to get mana back and use your healing ability. You really overall get to decide how you want to build your character up. Do you want to be an up close fighter with lots of armor, or a caster with low defense but lots of damage? And you're not locked in to whatever you choose. For instance, you can fight an enemy, and if you pay attention to the numbers that are over their heads, it'll tell you, if the numbers are red, that's saying, oh man, they're weak against this type of attack. So you want to pay attention. Is an enemy weak against physical attacks or magic attacks? And if you're going in against most enemies, it doesn't really matter. You'll be able to take them out. But for some of the bigger enemies, you want to pay attention to that and plan accordingly. You can switch your gear before you go in, and maybe this time I'm going to go in with a staff because I know that this monster is really weak against magic attacks. Or maybe next time I'll go in with a big sword because I know that they're weak against physical attack. One thing that really bothered me about the game is there's a lot of ways to get gear. Most of it is going into dungeons like caves and stuff, and you come out with some upgrades to your gear almost every time. The thing that bothered me is there's another way to get gear, and that's where you take 50 gold, which is your currency for upgrading your character. And you pay that gold to open a chest that may or may not have something that you want. I didn't really like that. And then there's another gold that's worth 5,000. It's really hard for me to justify spending money on this 5,000 gold chest when, spending that money on my spells will make them better. So now that's one thing that I really didn't like. Something that I did like, however, is that when you take side quests, it feels like you can only take one at a time, but you never really need to take more than one at a time anyway. But whenever you take one, it puts the main quest on hold. So let's say that there's this big monster in an area, and you're supposed to go kill it, but you know that you're not powerful enough yet. You're going to want to go and do some side quests in order to get more powerful. As soon as you enable that side quest, that big monster disappears from the map, and you don't have to worry about running into it as you zip back and forth across the land trying to do the side quests. The controls feel really tight. It's Y to attack, B to dodge. You've got your magic on the shoulders, and there was no time where I got hit because the controls failed me. I only get hit when I decide to risk staying in that telegraph just one more swing before jumping out. The controls feel really good, and it makes the gameplay, that moment-to-moment gameplay, feel awesome. I really, really like the way the controls feel as you're playing this. I did play with the Pro Controller. My son loves this game as well. He played with the Joy-Cons without even having the grip, just the separate Joy-Con sitting there playing. There's no reason to use the right stick other than to look at the overall map. And speaking of the map, I almost forgot this. The overworld looks like a map even when you're playing. So you'll be running along and you'll have like these big labels that would be on like an old fantasy map next to a town, and you're always in that view. I really like the way it looks, and the graphics are bright and colorful. They really pop off the screen, and all of the characters and houses and monsters, they all kind of feel like paper cutouts sitting on this paper map, and it looks really cool. I like it a lot. One thing that I would like to see added to the game, and I guess I should have talked about this in gameplay when I talked about the gear, is I would really like it if I could take the gear that I know that is good for physical attacks and like make a set out of it, so that I could say, all right, I see a monster that I need to attack with physical damage, I'm going to switch over to my physical set. Oh, here's one that is weak against magic attacks, I'm going to switch over to my magic set. You can't do that, and so switching gear back and forth is a little tedious, and I didn't like that one part. My final thoughts for the game is that if you like ARPGs, it's definitely worth checking out. I had a lot of fun playing Cat Quest, and I appreciate the developers sending me a review copy. I would recommend this game to anyone that likes a lighthearted ARPG, and if you like cats, then you're going to find a lot of humor in the dad joke pun style writing that's in the game. If you've played Cat Quest, why don't you let me know what you think of the game in the comments section down below that thumbs up button. Be sure to check out my podcast, which is Nintendo Switchcraft. You can find that at runjumpstomp.com/listen. And don't forget to stop by the Twitch stream sometime and watch a live stream. All right, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.